know where the treats at.
Is this the passing of the torch, right? Is this what this signifies?
It comes down to that front office and what they feel is most important.
The champ is here. We touched down from a higher plane. Why you landed here?
We always look forward to that week because it was always intense.
You know that we ain't coming back. We about to.
The man, the myth, the legend, Dante Hall. My favorite player growing up was Dante Hall. I love you guys, Joe, but Dante was my guy.
Get to dashing because you done on the warfare.
This episode of Chief Concerns is brought to you by betonline.ag. Hey there, Marcus Dash here from Chief Concerns. Just want to comment and say BetOnline is your #1 source for all your sports betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for football, baseball, boxing, golf, and much more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Chief Concerns. I'm Marcus Dash here with legendary Chiefs tight end Jason Dunn, my brother Teja Dash, and of course, the legendary Coach Al Saunders. Coach, how we doing?
I'm doing great, guys. Appreciate you having me on. How you guys doing?
Doing wonderful.
Awesome.
Doing wonderful, Coach.
Awesome.
Tell you what, this is going to be an absolute treat for us, for everybody out there. They're excited, just getting all of the response from everybody, just wanting to listen and talk to Al Saunders. I cannot believe, and they cannot believe. I mean, they're giddy. Now, Coach, look. Now, Marcus and Teja they're not gonna seem like it, but they are absolute starstruck right now, Coach. They are.
I'm glad to hear that you want to talk, because my wife and I have been married for 50 years, and she hadn't talked to me for 2 weeks now.
Well, I tell you what, I know you have a whole lot to say, and she's a beautiful lady. I adore and just love her, you, and the family. But that's another thing. Just your quick wit and all those different things are going to be the treat, Coach. And the man that I know of you, everybody else is going to have a chance to kind of get to talk to you a little bit about just some of this philosophy, offensive philosophy. Also, what you've been doing with yourself, and we've kind of talked about just during our era of Chiefs football. There's this new age of people coming in that think the Chiefs just started when Patrick Mahomes started playing, right? And so they don't quite know the long history of, the 2000s, even before that, when you was here with Marty as well. Just your brilliance, your innovative thought process on the offense. Like, just when I'm telling you the things that you were able to do, Coach, I mean, it just blows me away. And I played in it.
Thanks, JD. You were a big part of that, and I was just really fortunate in my involvement in the National Football League, which I coached for 38 years in the NFL, and 15 of those were in Kansas City, with 10 with Marty and 5 with Dick. And prior to coming to Kansas City, I was with Don Coryell in San Diego, the Air Coryell offense, and that's really where I was grounded in really the kind of football that I really believed in and really enjoyed coaching. And like Don always says, you can't teach what you don't know, and so always be a student of the game. And I always tried to do that. And with Dan Faust and Kellen Winslow and Charlie Joyner and Chuck Muncie and all those great guys and the Air Coryell, we were able to bring that to Kansas City. And the thing that actually in between Marty and Dick, we were in St. Louis and won the Super Bowl with the greatest show on turf, and with the same offense. And the thing that I always go back and remember, I was always a good listener, and Don always used to say, from an offensive perspective, find out what players can do. Don't ever ask them to do what they can't do, and then put them in a position to have success. And we were really the first in San Diego to, we went with 3 tight ends at times with Kellen Winslow and 2 other tight ends we had there that were just Pete Holohan and Eric Sievers. No teams were doing that. And we would shift them and move them and, have people out extended in the formation. Kellen Winslow was probably the first tight end, to really be utilized as a wide receiver. And much like you, and he could have been an all-pro tackle, just like you could have been, as well as, the way you played tight end was just phenomenal. And we tried to find out what people could do, put them in a position to have fun. We moved and shifted and changed the look as a pre-snap look to give us an advantage and to get mismatches and get matchups. And, every year it was different. Every team was different. And when you were there with us in Kansas City, you really made it possible for players like Priest Holmes to do what he did, set NFL records 2 years in a row for the most touchdowns ever scored in a season. I think one year was 28, one year was 27. And Tony Gonzalez went to the Hall of Fame, as you well know. But I've told people this before. Tony Gonzalez would not have been in the Hall of Fame without players like you, supplementing what he did and allowed him to be able to play the way he did. And so it was really fun. You guys, I don't know if you guys watched JD play at all, but, JD was the most unselfish, true professional that I honestly said this. I've said this to him before and to other people. If you ever ask me about a player that just exemplifies what you would like to have in an NFL player, I always say Jason Dunn. He deserved the ball a lot more. He lined up and did what, Priest Holmes needed him to do in the run game and allowed Priest to be a Pro Bowl player. It allowed us to lead the lead in offense for 5 straight years. And was just a pleasure to be around. But it's about finding out what people can do, Jason, and then putting them in a position to do that and having fun doing it and making the complex things simple and not making the simple things complex. And I think if you put people in that environment and be creative and have fun doing it, like we did in San Diego and Kansas City, we were able to have players like you that we could take advantage of their skills.
Coach, thank you for that. Really, thank you so much for that. You know how I feel about you. You know how much I love you. But that is just such a great, compliment. Just receiving it from you, really, it just, whew. Okay.
Well, the feeling's mutual, that, and
Yeah.
As coaches, you always have respect for players who play from their heart, and you always did that, and you were a delight to be around. I remember we gave you a game ball, and I can't remember. I'm thinking, and I might be wrong in this, but we played Atlanta, and it was the 7th game of the season, and Atlanta was the number 1 team in the NFL in defense, and we were a strong offensive football team. We're the number 1 team in the league in offense. We beat them 58-6, and we scored 8 rushing touchdowns. Priest scored 4 in the first half, and then we had 4 scored in the second half. And the whole game plan against them, you were the most integral part of that because of the run game. Tony Richardson was exceptional as a fullback, and we played a lot of that game with 2 tight ends and a fullback and Priest. And we shifted you and moved you and shifted you and moved Tony quite a bit. But at the end of the day, we ended up beating Jim Moore Jr. was the coach there, and he was an intern for me when I was at the San Diego Chargers. I gave him his first job, and I don't. Well, you wouldn't have known this because you weren't on the headsets. Dick Vermeil was the head coach, of course, and Dick was one of his closest friends. When he coached at Stanford, Jim Morris Sr., Bill Walsh. Mike White, they had a phenomenal coaching staff, but Jim Mora Sr. was one of Dick's best friends, and now his son is coaching the Atlanta Falcons. And in the 3rd quarter, we had scored 8 points in 3 quarters, and Dick said, "Don't don't score anymore. Don't score anymore. I said, what are you talking about, coach? I'd like to score 100 on these guys. And he says, no, you can't do that. You don't have to walk across Jim Moore's hands. I'll never forget that. And we gave you the game ball after that game because of what you were able to provide Priest and the running backs in that game. It was just absolutely phenomenal. And people, you were just a delight to coach, Jason. I got to say that.
Well, Coach, I tell you what, you are definitely one of my favorites, and I've always said this. I've told other coaches, if I could be like any coach, Al Saunders would be that guy. And I've said I've taken a little bit of everything. And we would talk about this because I would sit in our meetings, and when we go through and get passionate about things, Coach, you would have me ready to run through the wall, like right then, right there. And it was easy to play for you, not just from the passion and the fire that you had, the things you would say out of your mouth. I mean, the way that moves people, I know it moved me. I was just like, man, I've never heard a motivational speaker or a guy that has so much passion. And I remember you used to tell us our stories about, your beginnings, how you grew up, the things you went through with iron lung. I mean, that's a whole different story. And it was just amazing to me just to listen to you speak in each and every meeting, in the practice, how you treated us. And I'm so gracious just having you. I'm so thankful, so grateful to have you, Coach, in my life. And
Well,
I love you immensely. You know that. Love you immensely.
Well, the feeling's mutual, and I think hopefully my children feel the same way. But I've always tried to impart, and my father imparted it in me, that you always treat people with respect and dignity. Regardless of the circumstances, it doesn't cost anything to be kind. It doesn't cost anything to be positive. It doesn't cost anything to be passionate about what you do. But if you can do those things, typically things end up being pretty good for everybody. And it was so easy with the group of players that we had at Kansas City during that time, and your teammates, the Priest Holmes and the Tony Gonzalez and the Willie Rose and Will Shields and Tony Richardson and all those guys, Dante Hall, who you had on. Not only were they great players, but they were really great people and great teammates. And I think you guys had such a strong feeling for one another. It was such a selfless thing. And it was so much fun to be around. We were successful, and we were successful because of you guys. It was easy to have success when you got players who work so hard. And like Dick always used to say, you're a really good football team when your best players are your hardest workers. And when you looked around our team, the hardest worker in the running back room was Priest. The hardest worker in the tight end room was you and Tony. The hardest worker in the offensive line was Will Shields. The hardest worker, you just went right along. Eddie Kennison was the hardest worker as a wide receiver. And as it turned out, we had a team that they played for each other. You know that, you can feel that more than anybody. But when you're the offensive coordinator of a group like that, it makes it a lot of fun. And that's part of competitive sports for kids all ages. You got to have fun doing it. And we tried as coaches to make it as much fun as we could, much like the Chiefs are right now. They're having a heck of a lot of fun doing what they do with Holmes and, with Andy Reid and all those guys. And they're fun to watch, and, they're exciting and much like we were. And it's really, really fun to see the Chiefs, play like they're playing. I don't know if you guys knew this. My son worked for NFL Films a long time ago. He's, like I say, he's a producer for Netflix now. But there was a place in South Philly called Charlie's. It was a bar in South Philly, and it was a place. Rich Gannon used to go there all the time. It was a Kansas City Chief kind of a hangout for Kansas City Chiefs fans in Philadelphia to go to football games. And he did a documentary. Joe, my son, did a documentary on that place, and he actually won an Emmy for doing it. And it was a Chiefs thing. for any of your fans that you guys are hanging around in Philly, you got to go to Big Charlie's, and it's one of the greatest all-time places ever.
You know what, Coach? I have one of my former teammates from the Eagles on here. I told him kind of to jump on. His name is Hollis Thomas. He just actually made a comment about the Iron Lung. He couldn't believe it. HT Big Tank. Hey, go down to Charlie's in South Philly, okay? And I want you to go check this place out. All right. They won't throw you out. They will embrace you. It's right there. You know exactly where it is. Go in and go check him out. He'll be at the game this weekend because we were talking. He actually was going to be at the game this weekend. I can't make it. But he will enjoy, Coach, to go in. And he's like a food connoisseur. He's like a place that you can just go into and they will just love it. So HT, they will embrace you over at Charlie's. Okay. They will embrace you at Charlie's. I'll say, he said he's been there before. See,
that's a place to go. You ought to look up on Google or however you get, videos, but look up Big Charlie's, and Joe Saunders he directed and produced it. And it's, we had Dick go back there, and Dick and myself and Frank Gans, and I think it was one of the other coaches. I can't remember. But we actually flew back to Philly and went there. And went in and Dick surprised him, by going into the bar. And what a great time that was. That was really fun, and it was great in that particular place. A great Kansas City Chief hang in a place that you wouldn't expect any Chief to be going.
Right.
Yeah, I think Steve Spagnuolo went there after they won the Super Bowl against the Niners. I think he ended up going there with the Lombardi, I believe, and they took like photos and stuff. So, because Spags also has the roots to the Philadelphia.
That right? Who take it? That's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool.
Coach, I know you kind of talked about, Coach Vermeil and their whole staff and talking about the players on the team, but I just want to really just play, homage to you all as far as like the staff in itself, everybody that you had. Like you were just talking about Frank Gans Jr., Dick Vermeil, Charlie Joyner. We're talking about, Big Daddy. We had Billy Long. Jeff Hurd. We could just start naming them over and over again. Mike White. When we're talking about putting together, which I think is like one of the greatest coaching groups for me to be a part of. We love, and y'all were characters yourself. Believe me, y'all were characters yourself. We enjoy being with you guys because y'all have so much personality to you and so much just wealth of knowledge and intellect. Y'all been in a lot of different places, and so we enjoyed every bit of it. Talk a little bit about kind of some of the coaches, like you said, in the Hall of Fame that you was able to coach with, and some of the things you just learned just in that entire process.
Yeah, we did have a great staff, and that's a tribute to Dick. Vermeil, he's a special and a unique coach and a unique man. He's just a tremendous human being, and people wanted to coach for Dick and liked to coach for Dick, and James Saxon and Charlie Joyner and Keith Rowan and Mike Solari and myself were basically the offensive staff and really got along well and really enjoyed being around each other. And you asked about coaches I've coached with before. I actually have been really, really fortunate in my career to be around just some really great head coaches. My first years in the league, for 6 years, I was with Don Coryell, and then when he retired, I ended up being the head coach with the Chargers, and then came back to Kansas City and worked for Marty Schottenheimer, who should be in the Hall of Fame, and then worked for Dick Vermeil, who's in the Hall of Fame. Don's in the Hall of Fame, and then when I left Kansas City, I went to Washington Redskins, who at the time, now the Commanders, worked for Joe Gibbs. So in my career, I really worked for 4 Hall of Fame head coaches, which learned a lot of offense from them, and not only offense, but how to manage people and how to do things the right way. And really fortunate. And after I left Washington, I went to Baltimore with John Harbaugh, and John Harbaugh is going to be one of those Hall of Fame guys before it's all over in his career. So from everybody, Jason, and you know that. I mean, it's not football; it's in life in general. You learn things, and you learn the way to do things the right way, and you learn, how to build on your own abilities and try to help people around you get better. And that's the great thing about coaching. It's teaching, isn't it? And, the teaching, involves a lot of things, it involves things emotionally, mentally, physically, and every other way. And you learn how to do things from people who have had great success and who are the very best in their careers at it. And I had opportunities at a young age to be involved with those kind of coaches, and fortunately we had great players, had great success.
That's wonderful. And the thing is, Coach, you like you said, just like the amount of guys that coaches, and you treat everybody right. You did that. You was the embodiment of somebody that showed their heart, their passion, their love, the players, for your coworkers. Like I said, Coach, I just love seeing your work. And what we're going to do, I'm going to kind of get into a little bit of like the wide receivers, the guys that was able to actually, for you, that you developed over the time. And it's just amazing to me, the names that just come up. I'm just looking at the list. It just goes on and on. And so I think behind the scenes, when they hear a player, right, and the yards and everything they do, all the accolades that they received, there's somebody that's there that's giving them the chin and the tutelage and everything that's necessary for them to be successful, right? Somebody has to be the one that is going to nurture this environment to get them to that point, right? And so some of the names I'm looking at, Coach, I mean, just Wes Chandler, Charlie Joyner, Kellen Winslow, Willie Gault, Andre Rison, Derek Alexander, Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt, Eddie Kennison, like you said, Johnny, TG, Dante Hall. I mean, we could just keep going on and just naming the guys that you just had that was under you that attributed a lot of the success for the things that you did as a coach. And that went into like more than just the X's and O's and the route running, the technique. It was the love that you gave them. Okay? Like you said, the respect that you had and the passion that they saw from you every single day. I remember watching you one day in practice, and we threw a ball down to, maybe it might have been like a 9 route. And I see you just take off running like you were going out on the route yourself. And I was just like, what is Coach doing? I was so amazed, right? First off, you're an avid runner. I don't know if people know this or not. I mean, you're like incredible. I would just watch you. You're like an Iron Man to me. But when watching you out there on the football field running with these top of athletes, which you are one yourself, people don't quite know that, but I mean, you are. I mean, I was just so amazed at those things, Coach. So let me ask you, just kind of with those names that you have, what does it take to develop wide receivers, right? Hall of Fame wide receivers. What was your philosophy in training those guys to get them to the point where they got to?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for saying that. And I was really fortunate, as most coaches are. I coached for 50 years, right? 38 in the NFL and 12 in college football. And I can honestly say that I never, ever, ever once ever felt like I was going to work. I enjoyed, and I can truly say this in all honesty, I loved every single day. I could hardly wait to get to work, and the associations with the players and the strategy and the adrenaline rush on Sundays, and staying at night. I mean, we'd be at the office at 6 a.m. and leave at 9, 10, 11 at night, depending on what day it was during the week, and never ever felt like I was going to work. It's just something that I really, really enjoyed. And that part about running it up and down the field, I'll tell you a story about that. My first coaching job ever was at the University of Southern California. And John John McKay had coached there. This was in 1970. I just graduated from Stanford, got my master's there, and went to USC as a graduate assistant. And we had a receiver by the name of Lynn Swan, who ended up being a pretty good player. And at USC, Joe Gibbs was the offensive line coach. Wayne Fonts was the secondary coach. Just a tremendous staff there. And the first day of practice, this is a true story. The first day of practice, and I'm kind of helping. I'm working with the tight ends and wide receivers, as a graduate assistant. So you're kind of an intern guy, And so we're out on the practice field, and at SC we had a defense for teamwork. We had a defense lined up, and then there was 2 offensive huddles. And one huddle would go and run a play, and then they go around the outside, and the next group would get up, huddle up, and it was just really fast-paced offense. And so I'm coaching. I think I'm coaching like crazy. I got guys are coming back to huddle, and I'm talking to them, and making some corrections or whatever needed to be, or patting them on the back. And we're walking off the field, and I thought I did okay. I thought I did the right thing and coached him up. And I was, 23 years old, and my first opportunity to be. I was in awe of Coach McKay and the USC Trojans. They just won the national championship, And I'm walking off the field, God's honest truth, and so I kind of saw Coach McKay up in front of me, maybe about 10 yards. So I kind of hurried up, just to kind of get next to him, and maybe he would say something to me, And he always smoked a cigar. He didn't light it, but he had a cigar. And he has a cigar, he takes it out of his mouth, and he looks at me and he goes, "Allie, if you put a Y on the end of your name, you knew you did okay. If he called you by your regular name, you knew you were in trouble." But he goes, and I didn't know that at the time. So he goes, "Allie," he goes, "I want to tell you something." I said, "Yes, sir." He goes, "We work full days here, not half days." And he kept walking. And I had no idea what he meant. And it really concerned me because it didn't sound really good when he said it. So it was a morning practice. So I asked Coach Gibbs, I says, "Hey, Coach," I said, Coach McKay said we work half days. What does he mean? He says, what he means is we had 2 huddles going. He says, you're standing back there talking to, Lynn Swan, and you're talking to, Bobby Chandler and all those guys, and another guy's running a route. He says, what you do when a guy runs a route, you run right down the field next to him, and you tell him what he did right, or you tell him what he did wrong. And then you run back to the huddle in time for the next group to go. Now, I've run about 25 marathons in my life. It was kind of a hobby of mine, running. So the afternoon practice, the first team would get up and they'd run a route, and I would run all the way. If they ran an out route, I'd run down it there. If he caught the ball, great job. If he didn't get out of the break quick enough, so I was coaching him on the move. So after that afternoon practice, we're walking off the field, and I tried to catch up to Coach McKay again, so maybe he would say something. He looks over, he has a cigar, and he looks over and he goes, "Allie," he goes, "now you're coaching a full day." Never forget that. And what he said was, and then it was a lecture to the staff after practice. He says, "Man," he said, "let me tell you something." He says, "Our players are working their ever living rear ends off. I want immediate feedback. None of this stuff about we're going to look at the video after practice and we're going to correct him." He says, "I want immediate feedback. I want you to tell them what they did right, or I want you to tell them what they did. If they did something wrong, you tell them how to do it correctly." And I always remembered that. It made sense to me. And so it just became part of, you know me, I'm a little animated when I'm on the field, and I enjoy when I see a player do something really well, or something that we've talked about that might be, getting out of a route in the proper way, or the proper depth of a route. And, we always just say, be where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there. Don't ever fool the quarterback, and it was know what to do, know how to do it, do it all the time, and do it with energy and enthusiasm. And I kind of felt that way as a teacher and as a coach. When somebody did something well, it really made me feel good, and it really made me feel good about maybe there was something in our meeting or something in practice that I might have mentioned to this particular player that enabled him and helped him become a better player. And the question that I get from a lot of people, Jason, a lot of times, and you can kind of identify with this. They said, how do you work with, or how do you coach these guys? Now they're making millions and millions of dollars. And when I was a head coach at San Diego Chargers, I made $125,000 a year. Head coaches are making $5 million. Tight ends now are making 10 million, 12 million a year. They're paying a little bit different now,
Yeah.
But people say, how do you work with these? How do you work with these players? They think they know everything. They're making all kinds of money. And I said, I've never ever thought of it that way. And I know this, that if a player feels, and you could attest to this, if a player feels like as a coach, you can help them get better, they'll do anything you ask, right? I mean, as a player, if you felt a coach could help you get better or achieve a goal that you set for yourself, or play more or play longer in your career, you would work like crazy to do everything you could to improve your skills. And if you had a coach that tried to BS you a little bit and really didn't know what he was doing and was not enthusiastic about the game or enthusiastic about you, it's a different attitude. It's like being in a family, and how you treat your children or how you treat your spouse or how you treat people around you, I think is really, really important. And that's always something that I really enjoy doing. I love the game. I love the people in it, relationships, going and seeing Dante Hall, and you were there, a few weeks ago when he was put in the Ring of Honor. I mean, what a great feeling that was to know that Dante achieved that, that's the reward of being a coach. And that's what is really great about the profession and the relationships that you have, and thinking that maybe at somewhere along the line, you did something to help somebody get a little better or put them in a position where they could have success. And that's the really fun part of coaching.
They call that buying in now for players to,
buying in.
Yeah. Players buying into hearing that from coaches now.
Well, that's important though, I mean, we all buy into whatever we're doing. As assistant coaches, you buy into the head coach,
Yeah.
And as assistant coaches, responsible for a group of players, in a room, if you buy into each other and that the most important, I would want a player to feel like the most important thing to him was our relationship. And I used to tell in the receiver room, because I was always most of the time with the receivers and quarterbacks, my first meeting, I would always say, I'm going to treat everyone like a first round draft choice. I don't care if you're a free agent. I don't care if you are a first round draft choice. To me, everybody's a first round draft choice. And I wouldn't spend any more time or any less time on a free agent working with him, or any less enthusiastic about him doing something that was really good, or that to watch him improve, than I would if he really was a first round draft choice. It didn't make any difference to me. The reward was that player getting better. And if he didn't get better, I took my own responsibility for that. I thought, what can I do to make this particular individual, achieve the goals that he would really like to achieve. And sometimes their talent wasn't good enough to do that, but we were going to try to make them as good as they could possibly be, given the talent that they had. And by teaching techniques, by being demanding, and Jason knows that, it wasn't, an easy practice, regime that we had. We worked hard, and our players worked hard. And as a result, they got better. And as a result, there was nobody better in the National Football League as an offensive unit than the Kansas City Chiefs. From 2001 to 2006, I guess it was, we scored more points than any team in the National Football League. We had more touchdowns. We had more yards. than any other team and scored more points than any other team in the NFL. And that was really special.
2,175 points, 30,470 yards, 262 touchdowns during that 5-year span. That's incredible, Coach. Absolutely incredible. And I'm sitting there. I played in. I had no idea we
couldn't have done it without you, JD.
I think we had a great bunch of guys around us, and so just in that development, like you were just talking about on young guys, and I love that because now you got me sitting up here like I'm in meetings writing down notes on all the good nuggets you give, Coach, all the good nuggets you give, and I love that part when talking about like treating every player like a first-round draft pick, and it's so important that guys that I felt like they're just left in the past, or you're an undrafted free agent, you're not going to make it. And so it's important when we're talking about from the guy that's on the bottom of the totem pole to the top, it's all turning around that we're all together. We're all here for a common goal, and we're trying to make sure that we're trying to win a championship. That's what it's about. We're trying to do it as a family. And it's important when I talk to some of the fans out here, what the dynamics of the locker room looks like. And how sometimes outside of the locker room in the world, fans and outside of that whole encasement, it looks different because we rely on each other every single day, and we have conversations with each other that's a lot different than everybody out here talking. The media is talking out here, but people don't quite know what goes on. And so, obviously, as coaches, y'all keep everything kind of close to your chest, but in house, y'all kind of let it all spill out a little bit. And that's what I love about it because it's like, we know inside of this locker room, we got to rely on each other. That's what matters. That's all that matters. Not the distractions out here talking about what you didn't do or what somebody else got into and all this other BS that's going on. It's about men that's here in the room trying to get the championship and get these things done. We go to work every single day. We're trying to do it for the city, trying to do it for fans, and trying to do it for their families, for each other. And so it's an important thing when we talk about just NFL locker rooms, how now the Chiefs are so successful in what they're doing. Go to the Super Bowl 3 times in 4 years, win 2 of them. And now it seems like there's a lot of I'll be generous here. There's a lot of noise that sometimes you hear outside of the Chiefs, right? And maybe, Andy's not doing it right, or, the wide receiver room looks crazy. And, is this the right thing? Patrick Mahomes might be struggling. And what does this all look like? And so during those years where there was a little bit of turmoil or some, a lot of, hard times, now there's like the golden years of the Chiefs in a sense, right? If you will, where you have a wonderful team with Andy Reid at the helm, Patrick Mahomes, who's playing at the highest level that we've seen quarterbacks play, Travis Kelce doing his amazing job as a tight end, solidifying himself as one of the top of all time. And I say we have the best 2 greatest tight ends of all time, and that is with Tony Gonzalez and Travis Kelce. Obviously, Kelvin Winslow is right up there with him, obviously, right? Another one that you coached. But to kind of see this team right now, okay, and I'm sure you've been watching this team, Andy and those guys, kind of do what they do. Can you just give me a kind of a sense of what you think about these guys, as far as Andy, just kind of talking about him a little bit and the job that he's doing, and then kind of go into like some of the philosophy you think offensively, what you think they're doing right, and maybe some things that you may critique. That I know these we don't want to be speaking disparagingly about anybody, but just go ahead and just kind of elaborate a little bit, Coach, if you will.
Yeah, well, I've known Andy for years and years and years and years. We're both from the San Francisco Bay Area, and I've known Andy for a long, long, long time, and have a great deal of respect for him, not only as a football coach, but just how he handles things. And he's had some difficult times in his life, but he is a special special human being, and I think his genuineness and he's a humble guy, and he's very, very knowledgeable about utilizing players in the best way possible for them to have success, just like Don Coryell was, and just like Dick Vermeil was, and just like Marty Schottenheimer was, and Joe Gibbs was, the people that I've worked for. But I think right now, in my opinion, I think the Kansas City Chiefs are, the best team in football. I think they've got the best quarterback in football. I think the system, the way they play offensively, and Spags is doing a good job with the defense. They play complementary football. I know that, people think, maybe they aren't playing as well as they played, in the last couple of years, but they sent a guy to Miami that's pretty darn good. And when you don't have him on your football team, it changes the dynamics a little bit. But, they can run the ball, they can throw the ball, and Patrick is just, he's one of those very, very special human beings. And the word that I think that, is operative in terms of you're talking about the locker room, is the culture. I think the culture in their locker room is terrific. I think they're real supportive of each other. Kelce obviously is maybe one of the best that's ever played the game. I still kind of favor Kellen Winslow as the best tight end that's ever played the game. And Tony Gonzalez is right in there with him. And Travis, his statistics are going to be, he's already passed Tony in a lot of respects. None of them can block like you did, though, JD. None of them can block like you did. So Priest wouldn't gain as many yards in the offenses right now, but I think they're outstanding. They play with genuine enthusiasm. I think when you've had a lot of success like they have, people expect so much every single week, to the point where it'll be interesting to see how they play this week when they play Philadelphia. I mean, that's a true litmus test for this year. A repeat of that Super Bowl, and you got two great football teams playing, in a marquee game. I would never bet against Andy Reid, and I would never bet against Patrick Mahomes. And I think they're terrific. They're entertaining. They're fun to watch. They put the ball down the field. So many teams now, the passing game is a sideways passing game. It's quick screens, just throw little bubble screens out there, get the playmakers in space, which is important to do. But very few teams anymore really have a vertical passing game. The two teams that do right now that are playing that way, and people say that, the Kansas City Chiefs is, quote, a West Coast offense. That's such a misnomer anymore. That, the West Coast offense, as Bill Walsh ran it, Bill had one tight end, he had two running backs, he had two wide receivers, and it was a slant, hook, drag offense. It was short passes to guys like Jerry Rice and John Taylor, who were 6'3", 225 pounds, that broke tackles and made big plays with their legs, but they were in contested environments all the time. They're throwing hook routes, they're throwing slants, they're throwing, shallow crosses and drags. And that was really the West Coast offense is a sideways offense. You watch Nathaniel Hackett in when he was in Denver, and when he's in the offensive coordinator for the Jets right now. That is truly a West Coast short 2 and 3 yard passing offense, and then letting the guys run the ball. In Don Coryell's offense, we attacked seams. We were throwing the ball vertically. We wanted to get the ball down the field, and then work the progressions from there. And Andy Reid has done a great job of incorporating the vertical passing game, as well as the lateral passing game that is kind of emphasized by, quote, the true West Coast teams. The other NFL that plays football like that in a vertical game is Miami. And that's why they score so many points, and that's why they're so explosive. The two best, in my opinion, the two best passing offenses in the National Football League are Miami and Kansas City, because of the way they play, the way they allow the quarterback some freedom in terms of the progressions that he takes. They're deep to short progressions. They're not always sideways progressions, and they utilize by movement, by shifting, by motioning receivers to get mismatches. And one thing about coaching, you can't teach what you don't know. And a lot of young coaches now come up either through the college ranks, or they're in one system for most of their career, and then they get an opportunity to be a coordinator or a head coach, and they really don't have the broad spectrum of resources intellectually in a variety of passing offenses. So I think Kansas City is really doing it the right way. I think they're exciting to watch. I think they do a great job with their perimeter players, putting them in positions where they can have success. And I think if I had to bet on a team, a Super Bowl team, a lot of people would say from the AFC. I'm not sure, where everybody would put their money, but I'd put all my chips on Kansas City.
Yeah, I agree with you. But Marcus,
Miami will be a tough out for him, though.
It will, yeah. I told them, I said this about Tyreek Hill. Like you said, that Kansas City let him walk. And who had more film on Tyreek Hill than Kansas City? Who knows Tyreek Hill better than Kansas City? And so Spags watched this guy in practice every single day. He cut his teeth in Kansas City. So he knew how he was going to defend Tyreek Hill. And so put your hands on him, get physical, pull, push, whatever you need to do to kind of get him out of his game. And so you're not going to be able to stop a guy like Tyreek Hill. The only thing you could probably do is try to contain him, get him frustrated, and try to get him off his game as hard as that is. But I think they did very good, successful as far as game plan against him this past week against him. So
they tackled him really
well. It's a great, it's a great testament to Andy and that staff to be able to be as successful on offense as they have been without him. Because in my mind, holy cow! I mean, I would give my firstborn child, to not have to go to Miami. You could have because players like that make you a pretty good coach. And what an explosive he is. He's just a delight to watch, and what a phenomenal player he is. I mean, his I don't know what his stats are at this point this year, but they're off the charts. And when a team scores 70 points in a game, it's incredible what they're doing, and they're fun. The quarterback's playing great. They've got they can run the ball. They can get the ball down the field in the seams. They're not. They do a great job with the screen game. They're really a multifaceted team that really is a delight to watch. And Miami, Kansas City, I don't know that you could have any if they were playing on in the United States. That helps too.
So if Carl and Dick tried trading Tyreek, you'd have something to say about it.
Oh my God! Well, Carl did his own thing, but Dick would do everything he could to keep him. and it's a lot of it comes down to money, and because there wasn't a better opportunity, and who knows what goes behind closed doors, and they got this salary cap issues and all of the other administrative things that come to fruition when you deal with players and salaries and all those kind of things. But I know one thing: there's not a more exciting, more dynamic, more electric player other than maybe Christian McCaffrey. But they're those two guys are money in the bank.
That's a fact. I know Marcus here. Would you have some, Marcus?
Yeah, I have so many things, but one of the things you mentioned, right now you're saying the two best offenses in the league are Miami and Kansas City. But if you ask many fans right now, they'll say the Chiefs' offense is just not. Obviously, it's not what it looked like 2 years ago with Tyreek. But what would you say? Because we look at different numbers here. We look at statistics last week that the Chiefs had the lowest 3-and-out rate in the NFL. But then if you look at our red zone offense, that's where it kind of we get to the other side of the 20. That's when things kind of unravel a little bit. What would you say in watching our games is where you see the biggest struggles so far this season for our offense?
Yeah. Well, when you talk about the red zone efficiency, that we had, I think we still have the record for the highest percentage of red zone touchdowns in the history of the National Football League. You could look that up in the NFL record book, but I unless somebody has broken it in the last couple of years, but I know 3 or 4 years ago, we still had the record for the highest percentage of scoring in the red zone. And part of that was, a lot of teams now are in the shotgun all the time. And if you're in the gun all the time, it diminishes a little bit the effectiveness of the run game, especially for backs that like to run downhill. And our philosophy was when we got in the red zone, when we were inside the 20-yard line, we were going to run the football. And it was run the football, play action pass, and then do some things off of what we did. But a lot of teams, they get down there, they think they've got to throw the football. They want to try to get the one-on-one mashups. The coverages are so different, and it's so difficult to throw the ball down there sometimes because of the combination of coverages that you see. But we ran the ball. I mean, Priest Holmes scored 28 touchdowns one year. He scored 29 touchdowns the next year. And that's because, and we were able to do that because we had 2 terrific players that we utilized in the run game in the red zone. We had Tony Gonzalez and we had Jason Dunn. And it allowed Tony Gonzalez to get matchups one-on-one with linebackers. And we had Dante Hall that we would put in the slot, even though he was small down there. And we really ended up playing a lot of nickel defense, but we were always not always, but we were under the center. We were able to, accentuate our play action pass, and we were able to run the football really, really well. And that's the one thing that I think Kansas City has not done extremely well, is run the football in the red zone. And because if you throw it on first down and it's an incomplete, then you're going to throw it 2 more downs because it's going to be second and whatever, and then it's going to be third and whatever. And until we were fortunate enough to score so much that what I would always do as a play caller is we would have tendencies, and I would always try to break the tendencies when we had a lead, a significant lead in a game, or we were really comfortable offensively that we were going to have a good day. And then I would still do what we would do in the red zone. Then all of a sudden I might throw the ball on first down there just to break a tendency, because most of the defensive coaches go off, computer analysis, and when you're down there on first down, it's this on the right hash you do this, on the left hash you do this, with this personnel group you do that, and we would change up so much. We ended up having a variety of personnel groups, a variety of shifts, a variety of motions. We would never give defense the same look twice. Now, we might run the same plays from one game to the next, but they would never look the same. It would be with a different personnel group. It would be with a different shift and a different motion. And that's how we got a lot of creativity. And I do think, and once again, it's just one man's opinion, but I do think the most exciting and the most fun offenses to watch are Kansas City's and Miami's. Now, you can watch the Ravens and enjoy, that kind of an offense where the quarterback is, really an integral part of it. But they're not as exciting and will never be as productive as we were.
I tell you, I agree with that 100%. And just the innovation, I think, Andy, what he's able to do is just, you can see his brilliance in the game. And so, and I think what happens sometimes, Coach, with that brilliance, that some of the complaints from people is that Andy gets a little bit ahead of himself on short yardage, 3rd and short, right? But we don't look like we try to run the football. We're looking to try to throw and pass on 3rd down. And this past year is kind of bit us in a little bit. because if you are 31, you're having Darius Toney, wide receiver in the backfield. He's taking a snap, or you're trying to run jet sweep and jet motion, hand it to a running back, try to get to the outside, and you're already out leveraged. And so, obviously, as you know this, if your wide receivers are not capable blockers, that's going to be a problem. It's going to be a huge problem.
Yeah.
So what do you?
You know, and it depends on how you run the ball. You know, we always felt like, you know, we had inside zone, we had outside zone, we had gap scheme runs, we had traps, we had it all. And Priest was a downhill runner, and the important thing, like when we first started talking, you find out what your players can do, and you don't ask them to do things that they can't do. And thinking back, you know, if you had a Derrick Henry, or you had, you know, a Mixon like Cincinnati has, I mean, you don't want those guys running sideways. You want to run it downhill. And so you've got to build your system of offense to take advantage of the people that you have. And each year it changes. Without Tyreek Hill, that offense is a bit different. The terminology is the same, and some of the base packages are the same, and they're running the pass game, but it's different. And I think one of the I don't want to say a trap, because that's not a good word to use, but one of the kind of MOs that coaches fall into, and Marty Schottenheimer used to say this all the time: in times of stress, think about players, not plays. And I think sometimes when it's a stressful situation or it's a key situation, oftentimes coaches start thinking of plays, when really it's the players that who is your best player. And I think Andy's always done a really good job of that, because well, the two best players right now are Kelce and Mahomes. So probably without being in their staff, I'm sure the thinking is, when in times of stress, you think of those two guys. You know, how does Patrick Mahomes get the ball to one of our perimeter players? And Travis Kelce is a big part of that. As long as Taylor Swift's in the stands, I guess. You know, if she's not there, then they go to someone else. I don't know how that works, but you know, I sometimes, and the other thing that happens is people catch up with you. You know, as much as you try to stay ahead of the curve and you try to do different things from an offensive perspective, you know, there's some pretty smart defensive coaches out there too, and there's some real good players. And when teams play you twice a year in your division, you know, it's a little bit harder to play against those teams and be more creative. But I have so much respect for Andy. I have so much respect for what they do, that it's only halfway through the season, you know, and I don't have the stats in front of me. I don't know where they are offensively or anything like that, but I know one thing: they're effective, and they will be, and they're not going to get worse. They're going to get better. You know, just hopefully they don't have injuries like, gosh darn, you know, quarterbacks are getting injured like crazy. Knock on wood. We don't want to jinx Patrick, but where the kid from Cincinnati goes out last night, and the Browns lose their starting quarterback, $230 million guaranteed. Would you play for that, JD?
Man, all day, right now. Sign me up. 230 minutes. That's just crazy.
That's unbelievable.
It's just crazy thinking about it. You know. You know, Coach, let me ask you this question, because I've been asked this question before on the show and in the chat. What do you think about the whole notion that coaches hold back plays? What do you think about that? Do you think he has a whole different playbook for playoffs, that he's holding back plays? My estimation, I'm like, listen, go ahead.
No. Here's what you do during the week. Really, you as you know, and you know, you played for a long time, and you played, you know, extremely well in college. You played in the NFL and for a long time, and everybody has a base conceptual playbook, right? I mean, I could go and say, okay, you know, every offense that I've ever been a coordinator of, you know, we always had, you know, 383. We always had 989 F rep sneak. We always had 525 F post. We always had, you know, 432 F corner swing. You've got a base group of passes with protections. We always had multiple protections. But you have a base group of protections. We had scat protection, we had gone protection, we had play action protection, we had slide protections, a variety of protections, a variety of base concept passes, a variety of base concept runs, base concept screens, et cetera, et cetera. So you have a core of plays that your team basically relies on. And then game to game, it becomes a matchup game. What personnel matches up best with the team that you're playing. It becomes a formation game. It becomes a game of creativity in terms of how you're going to utilize those base concept plays. And then maybe there are some other runs or some other passes or some screens that particularly take advantage of the defensive scheme that you play. So you game plan scheme and you game plan personnel. So there are new plays each week, and some coaches have a lot of new plays. I had the availability to call over 200 plays in a game, and part of it was our terminology. We were a numbered route system, so we could run 989, for example, which is a go, and then an 8 route inside and a 9 route outside. And then at halftime, I'd say, you know what, instead of running 989, let's run a quick out on the other side and run 389. So the accuracy. So it's not a whole conceptual thing. It's something that we were able to do. We had a tremendous amount of volume, but our offense was very simple. A no standpoint that players could adjust and you could move along right away. So the idea of coaches holding back plays, I hear that all the time. And no, you don't. You might not run some plays because you don't need to, because you're ahead by 20 points. And typically what you do, you slip those plays to the next week. So that's what we used to do. I always used to game plan, maybe 10 to 15 plays 2 weeks in advance, so that it wasn't new each week, that we already had, a little bit of time to work on them. Might have run just a couple of times, might have introduced them in a meeting, and not had a lot of reps on them, but they would come up the following week. And so Andy's not sticking plays in his pocket saying, we're not going to run an X around, or we're not going to run a triple slant, with this particular kind of motion because we don't want to show it. No, you're going to do whatever you need to do to win the game, and whatever you have up that week to take advantage of their personnel and their scheme. So he's not keeping things for the playoffs. What they have is what they have, and what they run is what that coaching staff thinks is the best thing to beat the team that they're playing that particular day.
Yeah. I tell you, I agree with you. And I said the same thing. I was like, it doesn't make any sense to do that. The whole, like, you're trying to win the game. That's the whole objective, right? That's the whole objective, to win the game. So why would you handicap yourself, right? Or hamstring yourself and potentially not win the game because you're sitting there trying to hold plays back for, future games down the road? No, it didn't make any sense. So
yeah, the thing that, and I don't know this, once again, because I've watched every game that Kansas City's played this year, except for maybe one, I think. But the dynamics of that staff has to be a little bit different now without Eric Bieniemy. And I don't know how much Eric contribute. I'm sure he contributed quite a bit to the game plan, and I know that Andy calls the plays. But when you're with somebody as a key assistant, and Eric was Andy's key assistant on offense for several years, running the meetings, organizing the evaluation of your opponents, setting up the base pass, base runs, third down pass, goal line runs, goal line passes. There's a mechanic and a way that they did it for several years. And there was a relationship between Eric and the quarterback and Eric and the offensive staff and the offensive players. Now, all of a sudden, you take that dynamic out, and Eric, is here in Washington with the Commanders, and they're struggling a little bit, but there might be a little bit. It might take a little time for the staff and for Andy, to have the same kind of a routine that he had with Eric. And it might be just a little simple thing like the play chart, or how they put that together, or whoever's Nagy's presenting it, to the offensive players, or Nagy and the offensive staff are meeting, and maybe Andy, because of his head coaching responsibilities, doesn't make every single offensive staff meeting, and now all of a sudden it's Nagy doing it versus Bieniemy doing it, and there's a change in dynamics there, and I think whether anybody wants to admit it or not, I think that might be a little bit of a factor in where they are right now.
Man, we've said that on this show. We've said that you could tell his presence is missed, and part of it could be just with accountability, maybe to some of the players, where Eric was quick to get on guys, almost like you were, like running with guys and telling them what they did wrong. And I'm not taking anything away from Nagy, not saying Nagy's not doing that, but it just may look different. It may be a little bit different, right? How he's communicating to all the guys around him, and even the coaches. And I've said this, just my observation, just on them running routes, Coach. What do you think about this? Because I see when Patrick is holding the ball in his hand, it seems like they go immediately into like a scramble drill, right? So we have a scramble drill rules, and it's like almost picking things up on the fly. And I've said this. I think sometimes what ends up happening is if you lean on to Travis Kelce so much, and I think Travis kind of alluded to this, is it may hurt the integrity of some of the routes, and the discipline in what you're looking for. Because sometimes I see three guys in the same area, which we know it was a no-no. We told that's not supposed to happen. What do you think?
Any kind of change in a routine, or and I'll give you a great example. My wife and I, we were over in the UK. We were in England and Scotland for a couple of weeks about a month ago, and I rented a car. And now I've been driving for a lot of years, right? I mean, all of a sudden you're driving on the left-hand side of the street, and it was different. Now, and this is a God's honest truth. The first day we landed in Heathrow Airport. I was born in England, and so a lot of my family still lives there. And it was kind of my uncles are a couple of them are in their 90s, and they're getting kind of old. So I thought it would be a time for my wife and I to go and visit them. Maybe probably the last time we see them. And so I rent a car. I drive from Heathrow Airport to way up north in northern above London. It's called Downham Market. It's where one of my uncles and aunts live. On the way there, within about an hour and a half, it was about a 2-hour drive through these little villages and stuff. I claimed a rear view mirror on a car. Because I was driving on the left-hand side, I was driving too close to the car. The streets are really narrow, so whap whap. Here goes the rearview mirror, and so I stop and I pull over and I write a little note on the back of my card and stuck it on the guy's windshield. And, really apologize. I'm an angry American. I just learning to drive, and so about 20 minutes later, whap 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 whap. I drive over a damn bicycle. That and then that whole drive and changing on the other side of this.
They were,
3 days later,
Coach, we got your picture is down on.
Coach.
don't know if that's extremely successful. Now he's not going to be the.
Oh no.
Oh.
Coach is gone. It was that story he was telling in Europe.
The change of routine, it's detrimental. I'm telling you, man.
Yeah, that's a good one. Mike Brennan. Al ran over his connection.
That's a good one.
Yeah, Coach did get a little too excited to tell that story. It's a great story though. I want to know where that was going though.
Hey, Coach has some of the greatest stories. I'm telling
Man,
you.
Remember a bicycle? It sounded like Clark Griswold from European Vacation for a second.
Yeah, JD. Everyone in the chat's been raving about Coach. Everyone loves Coach based on his play calls, but hearing him, man, I would run through a wall for that man.
Oh, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. So the thing is, man, Al, he had just so much knowledge of the game, and you could just hear it. But just like when you're talking about just being fun to be around, this is what I would get every single day, in practice and meetings. This is who he is, and he wore his heart on his sleeve. He's just just all around, just a wonderful, wonderful human being, and I love him to death. So I'm gonna see if we can get Coach back up on here. I don't know if it's
there he is. There's Coach.
Hey,
You thought you were getting rid of me, huh?
no, lost
sir.
for a sec, Coach. Lost for a sec. All right, you still there? Got it? Okay.
What? This technology, I tell you what, you can't count on it. All this analytics that's going on in football right now. Sometimes you just got to play with your gut, right?
That's right. That's right. That's right. All right.
Coach, I wanted to ask you. This is something that obviously a couple years ago when the only time Mahomes tried a QB sneak, he had dislocated his kneecap, and ever since then, we haven't done a QB sneak with Mahomes. It's been usually a tight end sneak, Blake Bell doing it. What are your thoughts on Andy kind of eliminating the QB sneak with Mahomes just to kind of protect his quarterback? Have you ever heard of such a thing?
My first NFL coaching job was with the San Diego Chargers, and we had a quarterback by the name of Dan Fouts, Hall of Fame quarterback, tremendous player, and typical young coach at the time. But I just had come from the University of Tennessee, where we had a guy by the name of Reggie White, Willie Gall. We had a bunch of great players. We had a great team at Tennessee, and so we're in preseason, and we're running. It was the first game of the year. And we're running offense. We're down inside the 1 yard line, first and goal at like about 6 inches, right? And so we had Chuck Muncie and a bunch of really good players and backs down there. So we ran Chuck a couple times, finally get in the end zone. And I said to Coach Coryell after the game, I said, Coach, why didn't we just run a quarterback sneak? He goes, what? I said, why didn't we just run a quarterback sneak? He goes, look at Dan Fouts' legs. Are you kidding me? He says, I'm not going to run that guy on a quarterback sneak and get him killed. So I never asked for a quarterback sneak again in the 5 years that I was an assistant for Dunn. 6 years, I guess. There's something to that, once you've been burned by something like that, and Andy probably feels like it's not worth it to put that kind of risk to one of the greatest quarterbacks in the National Football League. And if you don't have Patrick Mahomes, then probably the outcome at the end of the year will be different than if you did have him. And while it's fundamentally and logically, you would like to have the quarterback sneak available. Maybe Patrick doesn't like it. Maybe he doesn't feel comfortable doing it. You know, there's too many things that could happen to him, and you have other people that could do it. People are shifting tight ends back there now. You know, they're doing all kinds of different things to get that same. You know, they're doing the tush push. You know, doing all kinds of things different to get that. You know, scrum. You know, 1 yard gain. But I would be. Yes, I've heard of it. We did it. We didn't have a quarterback sneak because of the quarterback and because Don didn't want to put Dan Fouts at risk like that. So I understand it totally.
Wow, that's good. That's the first time I've actually heard somebody explain why not to do the quarterback sneak. You know, especially when we see like with the Eagles, we talk about.
There's some guys that just don't like to do things. You know, I go back to Dan again. You know, in San Diego, you know, he would our pass offense in the drop back game was generated protection wise with non-protection, which is, you know, the five man protection or scat protection, which is a 6-man protection with hot receivers and sights. And Dan, we never were in the shotgun, and he just, you know, did not want to be in the shotgun, did not want to take his eyes off the defense. So we were always under center, and so he could throw the hots and sights, you know, off 2 of his 3-step drop, or 2 of his 5-step drop, or 2 of his 7-step drop. He'd get rid of the ball right away. And as a young coach coming from college where we were in the gun a lot, you know, I'm saying, geez, Dan, you got a guy, you know, you got a naked rusher off the edge, and you can still get the ball off, you know, to a hot or a sight in the gun. He said, "Al, I can't because I take my eyes off the defense, you know, to catch the ball." And he says, "I can't catch anyway." So we never went in the gun with Dan Fouts, and you know, and that's part of finding out what your players can do, what they believe in. You know, and if he couldn't function under the center like he did, we had a great play action game, and James Brooks was the other back that we had with Chuck Munster. We were phenomenal with the play action game, but we didn't get in the shotgun to throw the ball. Now, every down during those years, Dan Marino was in the gun almost every down. So it's what your players can do. It's put them in that position. And if you have a quarterback that might not like a quarterback sneak, or you're a coach that feels like you don't want to put your quarterback in harm's way, I can understand it. Would it be good to have it? Absolutely, you'd like to have it. But if it's not worth it, if you feel like, you know, you're putting your quarterback in a position that compromises his want to, or his ability to do it.
Coach, can you do me a favor? Can you go out? You gotta look. Can y'all hear that feedback?
Yeah, a little bit.
There's a little feedback, I think, on your phone. If you go out, come back in, it might go right back up.
JD, you're breaking up. I can't understand what you're saying there.
Yeah.
What was that?
Go ahead and tell Coach what I said.
Coach, could you go back out and come back in? There's kind of delay in your audio.
Go out and come back in.
Yeah, to see if that fixes it.
If I go out, I may never come back. I might not get back, but I'll try. Okay, I'm going out right now. Crime thinks I can't even get out.
There you go.
So I mean, interesting though that the whole QB sneak thing, that he was a part of that before. So I mean, there are coaches who don't want to do that with their quarterbacks.
Yeah, you know, and to be honest with you, I mean, when you think about it, because you sit there and say, man, it's so easy to run just a quarterback sneak for half a yard or a couple of inches, you know. But if you're thinking about it, right, a $45 million quarterback, you know, who hurt himself on the last one, is like, hey, look, do we want to take his chance when we have a couple of guys back here who can get the job done, right? We could hand the ball off to Pacheco, okay? We could get somebody else to do that. Matter of fact, if you wanted to, sure, which I think high percentage wise, come up, run downhill, do the little, tush push, if you will, right? But we know Jalen Hurts because of what he can bench or squat, the guys that he has in front of him. I mean, they do that really, really well. They're very successful at it. I think it'd be a shame if they talked about. I don't even want to talk about them, outlawing that play. It just wouldn't make any sense to do something like that because one team's successful at doing it. Trying to outlaw something like that, man, would be highly unfair. Highly unfair. What we had to do, man, we had to make a couple of people send a couple of questions when Al gets back in here.
Yep.
And see if we could, kind of get him to answer some questions. So if y'all want to sit some in the chat, in the comments, please see something, something good for us to ask Al at this moment.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. JD, I was going to ask him, hopefully his connection works and he can get back on. That was great. Everyone's loving what Al's got to say tonight. If we lose you, Coach, it was an honor listening to you. Yeah, it was amazing. We're definitely going to have him back on. I mean, we're about an hour 20 in right now. We're at like an 80-minute movie right now with this whole thing. I could listen to him all day long. But one thing I was going to ask him, because one of our other brothers, he's a Raiders fan. So Teja and I are Chiefs fans, he's a Raiders fan. And then we also grew up in the Washington, D.C. area, which he coached here too. So he's been all over the place, all the Dash areas. But I wanted to ask him because I remember watching, my brother was saying he remember watching one of the Raiders games back in the day where they talked about how Al Saunders' playbook was 800 pages. Now, you had his playbook. Was it 800 pages long, JD?
Oh, it was, easily that. I don't know if 800 pages is accurate, but I'm telling you, it was a whole lot. 500. When we talking about he had 200 plays to call all night, that's what it was.
Man,
so we were going to the game.
Thrones book.
Oh, man, it easily, I don't have one with me, but easily like this thick. And so that's the beauty of it was we could change anything up, right? He could tag different guys to do different things. And so that's what he would do. He would obliterate a defense based off what he would see. And he'll see something right there, and then immediately, he'll change something up. And so we had that capability. I think it's what made it so dangerous, not to mention the running backs and everybody else we had around us. So just knowing that, like in that 5 year span, that no team did it better than in the NFL up until that point, and I don't even know like a 5 year span like what it is now, but that many points, that many yards, that many touchdowns. And I'm just, and I was a part of it. And we were a machine. We were an absolute machine out there, just really just running through guys. So he's texting me right now.
He can't get on. Yeah.
I'm gonna tell him to hit the same link, right? That's all he has to do.
Yeah, he was having trouble with it earlier. It was tough. Technical difficulties tonight. Brian, I'm seeing some of your comments here tonight, buddy. What is not allowed to dislike anything Chiefs here. Not even Elliott and Pioli. Carl was a beloved GM. Crying emoji. JD, you want to take this one?
Let me read this one. Not allowed to dislike anything Chiefs here. Not even Elliott, Pioli. Carl was beloved GM. Well, Carl did a lot. You know what? I tell you what. Love him or hate him, and I love Carl a lot. We've had a lot of history with each other. He brought a lot of guys here. There was some success here with the Chiefs on the Carl. Now, obviously, Pioli, those guys, when they came in, try to bring in the Patriot way, did quite work, right? And we see sometimes these Patriot guys, they go other places, try to coach, doesn't work. And so Patriot way works up there in New England, not so much anywhere else, right? Didn't they just fire a guy? Didn't they, Patriot way?
Same experiment just happened in Vegas, yeah.
That didn't it? That's what I thought. I wasn't certain. I wasn't for sure, but
yeah, chemistry test didn't go well there either.
Right. So that's to me, that's just crazy. But yeah, look, the thing is, and Al said, it's about the players. It's about the guys that's here. And so when, GM's supposed to just bring guys in, the guys out there are the ones who are supposed to play. And you bring in a great staff, obviously with Andy. Carl brought some great guys here, as far as GM. He brought, Dick Vermeil, which I think was a huge step in the right direction with those things. And matter of fact, I was going to talk about Al. And matter of fact, Al was my choice when Dick left to be the heir apparent.
Yeah.
We got Herm. You got Herm here, right? And so we see how it worked out. Obviously Herm had been there before, and they knew him really well. But Al would have been the guy. Al would have been the guy for us, just because of what our offense was at the time, what he meant to everybody else. Everybody loved Al, and we thought Al was going to get the job. We really did. We really thought Al was going to get the job. So,
Al, you there? Coach, you there?
I'm trying.
There you go. That sounds crisp. That sounds good, Coach.
Real crisp.
wonderful.
Can you hear me?
Can hear you.
We can hear you.
You hear us?
I don't know.
Aw.
Sounded good.
Did I go away?
You did.
You're back now, Coach.
Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Fantastic.
My face isn't there, which is probably a blessing. I see a little circle with like a gray guy in there.
Yeah. He's representing. That's your icon. He's representing you right now, Coach. But you're crisp. We can hear you loud and clear.
Oh no.
He's
He's
probably
still-
trying to get on so you can see his face.
Yeah. He's still in the room, but yeah, he says device is not connected. Now he's back. Coach?
Check it out.
There you go.
There you go.
Gotcha.
Hey, don't ever say no for an answer. Just keep on trying, JD.
Yep.
You know
That's
what?
right. That's right.
Eventually it'll work.
That's right, Coach. That's right. That's for
I
sure.
apologize for being a total dunce when it comes to this technology, but I learned how to coach football. I didn't learn how to be an IT guy. And now I'm telling you, now it is so technology oriented that it's almost driving a lot of older coaches. When I say older, not necessarily age wise, but experienced coaches out of the game, because you spend so much time on the technology and the presentations and the video that you don't spend it. And I felt like this the last, I'd say probably 6 or 7 years in coaching, that young coaches spent more time being video directors than they did being technique teachers of the craft. And I really think that, of course, there's a lot of things going on now. You don't spend as much time on the football field in practice. The off-season programs are different. The NFL is regulated. The amount of time players can be there and do what they do. I think some of that's good from an injury standpoint, but there's also some really negative things that have transpired, and part of it is people don't teach as well anymore. They don't spend as much time investing their knowledge of technique teaching. It becomes audio visual, and it's really a shame, because I think that the players really they suffer from it.
With that, Coach, do you think there's too much emphasis on analytics and numbers?
Say it again.
Coach, can you hear me or no?
Yeah, I don't know why you're kind of breaking up a little bit, but I heard the word analytics.
Yes. Do you think there's too much emphasis nowadays on analytics?
Well, to me, analytics have been part of football forever. Analytics are, a statistical analysis, of situational football. And I think now with the computers, with the information, there's so much information and so much analysis of information that it's almost overkill. And I see some of these coaches, and it's like paralysis by analysis. I'll tell you another story. Guy by the name of Joe Gardino. Going back to chasing guys up the field at University of Southern California, Joe Gardino had a company called Apex Data Processing. He was a computer guy, and he was a USC graduate and alum. And he was one of the very first ever to produce computer analysis of other teams' defenses and offenses. He did it for the Rams. He did it for the USC for nothing. And he had Apex Data Processing was his company
Aw.
I want to
Yeah.
hear
That was
maybe we can, I mean, I'd love to see his face. Maybe we can go to audio because we know that was like crystal clear.
it was pretty good. Yeah.
It might be the Wi-Fi connection when you do audio and video. Do too much, it kind of it all kirks out rather than one or the other.
He's back in here. Let's see.
Thanks.
Hey,
You guys
Coach.
are killing me. Okay, we back. Is it you guys that are disappearing, or is it me that disappears?
Yeah, I think it's you. It might be maybe the Wi-Fi or something where you are.
Yeah, Coach, you could try without the video, see if that worked, because when you were just audio earlier, it sounded great. There was no like in and outs.
So just turn off the camera.
Yeah, I think that might work. Let's see.
Okay, like this.
That's pretty
Can
crisp.
you hear me?
Yeah, that sounds pretty good, Coach.
Is that better? Okay, so I was talking about Apex data processing, right? So this guy by the name of Joe Gardino and his companies, he had these little matchbox, and they had a dinosaur on the front. I'll never forget him because they were red and gold, which was USC's colors. Had a dinosaur on it, and it had adapt or die. And he says, remember this. He says, you need to adapt to computers because they will be the future of professional sports. Now, this was in 1970. And as a graduate assistant, I used to break down all the film for our opponents. So, you take a defensive film, and in those days they were actually films. They weren't videos. So you'd take them, and it was on an 8mm or 16mm deal, and take down the defenses and the different looks. And so it was really a sorting mechanism. So way back then, analytics were used. They just weren't used as regularly as they are now, or as abundantly. And I hear a lot of coaches, probably the coach at San Diego is probably under the most scrutiny for all of his fourth down, going for it, this, that, and the other. And he says, well, the analytics told me this. Shoot, sometimes you got to use your gut feeling, and the analytics don't take into consideration the players that are on the field, the guy that's playing against you, and Joe Burrow just fracturing his wrist or whatever comes out of the game, and analytics tells you to go for it on 3rd and 7. Well, you don't have Joe Burrow anymore. You got somebody else in there. So I think information is good, but you need to have information that you can use, not just a bunch of information. And I think I think the really good coaches have a feel for their team. They have a feel for what's going on in the course of the game. There truly is momentum in a game, and there truly is a sense of confidence of a player, and there certainly is a sense of not having confidence in a particular play or a particular run or a style of run or a style of pass. There's certain things that the quarterbacks feel really good about in the course of the game, and all of a sudden you call a play on 4th and 3, and you dial up a play that you might have worked on during the week, but the quarterback doesn't feel really good about it, but analytics say you should go for it. So it's a combination of all of the things. I think analytics are good. I think information is good, but it's how much you give me information that I can use and that I can sort through in the heat of battle at a moment's notice. And then it becomes a valuable source, and some analytical, information is not very good in my opinion, but I think we all have personal feelings on that.
Yeah, Nick Saban recently said what analytics doesn't tell you is what happens when you don't make it, which is I found interesting.
That's a good one. That is true. And sometimes sometimes you feel good about something, and that intuition, or it's like anything else. You prepare, and you prepare going into a game for certain situations, but what is actually happening. I mean, you know, you're going to say you're going to run the ball. The two best blockers we had on the line of scrimmage, you know, were really Willie Rofe and Jason Dunn. And I was a left-handed run play caller because I was going to put Jason in a left formation. So Tony Gonzalez would be on the right side when we had two tight ends and we were right-handed quarterback. So that was going to be a more effective way. And we ran the ball to the left a lot because of the two players that we had the capability of putting over there. And, you know, I mean, if somebody told me that, you know, and we didn't go for a lot of fourth downs, so people are doing that more and more now. But if it was 3rd and 1 or 3rd and 2 or 3rd and 3, and I felt like running the football, I was going to run it I was going to think players and not plays. And I was going to run it to the left side of our formation. And I was going to run it to Jason Dunn and Willie Rofe. And 90% of the time we were going to make it. And then later on during the game, when we were ahead by 14 points, I'd run it to the right, you know, or I'd do something, or I'd throw it on 3rd and 2, so that when the defensive coaches the next game would have an analytical, you know, chart of us and a tendency chart, it would all even out. So that's you can play with analytics too if you have if you have the foresight to do that, and you have a good enough team where you can do things to change your particular tendencies.
Coach, I used to love it because I'd be on the side and I hear defense, Dunn's on his side. We're running this way. It's always good to hear.
I have a tape. I have it. We played. Do you remember when we played the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore?
Oh yeah, I sure do.
When they had Ray Lewis, and they were the best defense in the history of defenses, other than the '85 Bears. We played. We played a Monday night game. It was either a Sunday night game or it was a night game. It was probably a Monday night game, and we beat them there. And I have, in fact, I got it right here. It says Ravens. Oh shoot! I got to show you this real quick. Okay, it's right here. See that little DVD?
Oh yeah.
And what it says is Baltimore Ravens, Ray Lewis wired versus Kansas City Chiefs 2004. We had Ray was wired for NFL Films, and we had a tremendous game against them and beat them. They were undefeated at the time, and we beat them back there in Baltimore at a night game. And Ray I should send it to you, JD. I'm going to send you a copy of it. You'll love it.
Please do. And yes, I will.
Ray Lewis is going to the sidelines going, we can't stop them. They're double teaming me. We can't stop them. We don't know what they're doing. And we ended up shifting both JD and Tony from one side of the formation to the other a bunch, so that we could get a matchup with Tony Richardson on Jason Dunn. And in that particular game, we ended up running some counter plays. So we pulled Will Shields. So it was Will Shields and Tony Richardson blocking Ray Lewis, with Jason Dunn and Tony Gonzalez on the edge, securing the edge, with Willie Rofe on that side. I mean, we just crushed him, just absolutely crushed him. And Ray's going, we can't stop him. We can't stop him. You know,
coach, I can't do it.
I got to send that to you.
I remember that. Man, I remember watching that live.
Oh yeah, please do.
It's a. Wait a minute, what did I just put here? I guess you can burn another one of these CD things, right? Wait, I'm going to show it to you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if I've got this thing right here, so it has the Ray Lewis deal. There we go.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I can't even show it to you. If I can make another one of these things, I'll send it to you. It's the best. You need this because you're in here knocking the living crap out of those guys, and you would really like that. I got it right on my desk right here. I'm gonna I've got to have another one somewhere. I'm going to send this one to you.
Right. All right. Be beautiful.
Oh.
Be beautiful. Yeah.
Well, Bart Scott was on that morning show on ESPN talking about that game.
Oh yeah.
Oh, really?
That was good. Yeah, but a couple months back, Bart Scott was talking about that Monday night game, about that, JD, T-Rich, Rofe, all those guys like knocking him to next week, and how Ray was getting really pissed off during that game. He was like laughing about it.
Well, you guys, when I send this to you, you got to bring it to you guys so you could play this live. It's worth. Where did I use this? Somewhere. Oh, I think what I did. Yeah, when I came back to the Redskins with Joe Gibbs, before we played that, we had a game with the Ravens, and before we played it, I played this tape at our team meeting on Saturday night. And it just brought the house down. Everybody just went nuts.
That's awesome.
It was great. And then they kicked the living crap out of us, but not on this game. This was 2004. That was a great year for us.
Oh yeah, I remember that vividly. I sure do. I do remember that. Oh man, so incredible, so incredible. Coach, I just want to say to you just how much I appreciate you coming on the show. I had a birthday a couple of days ago, and I'm like, what could be a better birthday present than to have Al Saunders on our Chief Concern show? And so I just want to tell you and I just commend you for coming through, fighting through the things you had to fight through to get here. And I know it's been a little challenging with all this technology and whatnot, but I know a man, a graduate, PhD from Stanford, Cal, as brilliant, as magnificent as you can figure those things out. It wasn't going to be a question. But I just want to tell you how much that I love you, how much I appreciate you, Coach. I mean that from the bottom of my heart, the depths of who you are as a man and what you meant to me and a lot of other players. I'm going to speak for them because we speak about you all the time and what you mean to us. And so you have made a indelible impression on us, that's for sure.
Well, thank you, JD. I appreciate that. And the feelings are mutual. And it's guys like you are the reason guys like me get into coaching, to have the opportunity to have those relationships. And there's a lady that just walked into my office right here that wants to say hello to you real quick.
Oh,
I just want to say I love you.
I love you too. How you doing? Can we get the video?
Where the heck I was.
Oh, shit.
He's been down in his office forever.
Oh, yeah, we've been holding somewhat hostage, I guess, in a sense, in a little bit right here. Just talking some good football, and actually talking about you and the family, just raving on you all, and just how much.
Just don't tell her that I couldn't get hooked up on the computer, because I'll hear it for the next week.
Oh gosh. Not the first time that's happened.
Well, right,
JD, thanks for having me on. It was really fun to talk to you and your hosts and just bring back some great memories of some great people and some great times. And always here for you if I can ever do anything for you, or if you ever need anything. And I need to get your mailing address so I can mail you this Ray Lewis wired thing from 2004. You need to have a copy of this. You would really enjoy it.
Oh yeah, I would love to. Would love to. And I just thank you, Coach. I really do appreciate it. I mean, this means a lot. It means a lot for you to come on the show. And Coach, we'd love to have you back. We'd love to have you back. We won't keep you as long as we did this time. You know, I know we kind of was, in your head a little bit, but we had to get the brilliance of you. We had to get you everything that you just did. Yeah.
Well, listen, I'd love to join you again at some time and do this. Let me know in advance what you did. But now that I know that it's a Zoom and it's a secret hookup, I will have my youngest son here, who is a technology wizard, and we will not have one glitch.
Okay.
Awesome.
Sounds plan. That's a plan right there. That's a plan. All
Hey,
right.
Coach, I'm going to let you know when it comes to our spring flag football games, we can get Coach Saunders there to whip up some plays for us.
In Fairfax? Are you going to be in Fairfax?
Well, we'll be in DC, the National Mall. That's where we play in the springtime, in the summertime.
Well, I might come down and check you guys out. We can give them a little get your head around and get out of the breaks, JD.
And you fire them up, Coach. Get them ready to win it. They've been so close, almost winning it.
Well,
let's
stay in touch, and thank you so much for having me on. I enjoyed it immensely, and always love talking football and love talking to you and people that mean so much to me in my life. And thank you for the experiences that we had together.
Absolutely, Coach. Me too. All right. No words, guys. You can just express how much I love you. Thank you so much. And everybody's coming in the chat to tell you thank you, Coach. All the fans are sitting over there saying thank you. They just, just in awe of the whole conversation. They really are. But thank you. Love you. Take care. Send my love to the rest of the family. Mrs. Saunders, is she still there? Because we can't see her.
She is.
I'm here.
Okay. Love you. Okay. My wife says hello. Whenever she was going to go get something, I guess spend some money when I was coming out the truck earlier. So I don't know.
That sounds familiar to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, JD, we'll say good night to you. Take care, my friend. I love you, and let's stay in touch.
Okay, definitely.
Okay, buddy.
Thanks, Coach.
Good night, man. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, Coach.
Good night.
Good night, Coach.
All right.
That guy's phenomenal. If he does, JD, if he comes to one of my flag games,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I speak for everyone where I would absolutely love to watch a live stream of Saunders doing a Chief game. I would take that a million times over a Manning cast. Okay. I would love to hear Saunders live talk about like the plays as they happen, man. That would be incredible.
Yeah, that would be a good time.
We
We actually try to get that hooked up, JD. If we give him enough time and notice, get the whole thing figured out, and have like a live cast where each of us are watching our games, and then try to get synced up so we're all at the same like time code during the games and watch it with Coach. It'd be fantastic.
Oh man, it'd be awesome.
A wonderful treat. It would be an absolute treat, man. I'm telling you.
We didn't get his game prediction. That was the last thing we're gonna do before we go. I know we've been on here for almost 2 hours now, guys. But
we'd be so excited though.
I know. I mean, game predictions we have them every week, but we don't get Coach Saunders every week. So that's but obviously, yeah. So Coach even mentioned it. Travis Kelce almost undefeated when he is undefeated when Taylor Swift goes to games 4-0. And of course, Andy Reid after a bye week, everyone knows what he does after a bye week, and he's 28-4 after 27-4 last year. 28-4 after the bye week. Taylor Swift at games 4-0. She'll be there. Her parents will be there meeting the Kelces. So that should be something. But who do you guys have in this one? We're a 2.5-point favorite. Rematch of the Super Bowl at home Monday night. A lot of stars will be in the building. What do you guys have in this one?
So I'm looking at this game. It's going to be a tough one. We understand that. We got the two best teams in the NFL right now, and so this is not going to be disappointing on Monday to check everything out. Hey, but
I think she was talking about your comment.
Yes, right. But I think to be honest with you, I mean the Chiefs. Without a doubt, are going to win this game. I'm just like Al said, I would not bet against the Chiefs at all. I'm putting all my money and my marbles with the Chiefs. And I think we get everything figured out offensively. I think this whole bye week was perfect for us to start moving in the right direction offensively, changing up some of the things that we've been kind of not so good at. Third down, obviously, short yardage in the red zone. And so I think this is probably the week, especially against a team like this, against the Eagles. It's going to be a very, very good outing. So I got my prediction at 28-1, or 21. I'm sorry, 21 is where I got a prediction.
Yeah, I was on
Chiefs.
You said 28-21?
28-21 Chiefs, yes.
You have slightly over the total points for this game. 45.5, which I thought was going to be the high scoring game of the week. It's not. It's like middle of the pack, 45.5 points. I was on all chiefed up this week. I gave a 24-21 prediction. I went, pretty much right on what Vegas has, the 45 points there. So slightly below the total points. But yeah, I think we win. I think the fact forget the Taylor Swift factor. That's more of just a novelty. It's just fun to say that we're 4-0 when she's at games. But I think, a little bit of having the bye week, having that a little bit of time, a little bit jump on the bye week, coming back from Germany and stuff. But yeah, I think with the bye week, our offense hasn't been looking the best. It's fine, but it hasn't been looking what we expect it to be. And I think with the bye week, the adjustments we make, maybe more Rashee Rice. I know they said this week that they're trying to limit Tony's touches to try to get him healthy and up to speed and stuff. I don't know if I buy all that. I see a little smoke screen action. I think you see a little bit more Tony this week, more than 7 snaps that he had last week. And I think Rashee Rice kind of continues to do his thing, continue to grow in the offense. The bye week helps. I think our offense is looking back to what we know it to be against Philly in a prime time game on Monday night.
Right.
Hey, at least they finally acknowledged the lack of Tony. That's nice. It took half the year, but at least they finally.
We weren't using this guy. Where's he been?
This is in my. I typed it. I just never hit send. I update you a long time ago. Yeah, Tony's injured. I'm going. I'm not sure whether would you say, Mark? You said 24-21.
Yep.
I'm going close to that. I'm going 24-20. I think Philly has the ball at the end of the game, forced to score a touchdown to win because a field goal won't be enough. I think it's going to be I was going to say high scoring too until the over under kind of scared me. The total, I was like, ooh, that's lower than I thought it was going to be. I feel like they want people to go take the over on that one. Yep. So that's why I decided to go a little under it.
Yeah. I know it's 2 hours, guys, and everyone's been on the chat for a really long time, but we'll get going. We have to do one more recording for our betting show that will be released tomorrow, so you guys can soak this episode in and enjoy this one. But yeah, we thank everyone for coming in here and chatting along with us, asking questions to Coach, making comments to Coach. Definitely made our day, made a lot of everyone's weeks in here, and definitely Coach was glad to see all the love that he still has in Kansas City, Chiefs Kingdom.
I could sleep easier knowing that Coach Saunders is a Swiftie. So that's never thought that, but yeah, all right.
I think, Al answered a lot of questions, when you would ask an offensive coordinator, somebody who has a wealth of knowledge over the years, knowing all the coaches, some of the thought process going into the games and what you see offensively, right? Like the whole hiding, plays and, what do you do on third down and short, and why are you thinking why Patrick is not doing the quarterback sneak, the evaluation of players, right? Also too, the wide receivers. We can go back through this entire thing. So comb back through this entire episode and just get all these little nuggets out there, man. And he just left really to give some really good insight into the Chiefs, what he thought.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the offensive play thing with holding plays, which I loved. You weren't even done asking the question. He goes, no.
Yeah.
Like, no.
Kick it all the way out before he said it. Yeah. No. But I do that. So good. Hey, appreciate it. Appreciate it. Everybody came into the chat. Thank you so much.
It's a great time.
Wonderful time. Yeah, we're gonna have some more next week. We have another treat.
A Thanksgiving treat.
Yes, on the show. So be ready. Be ready. We won't make it 2 hours, but we'll keep your attention. It's going to be a good time.
We'll keep you attention.
Yeah.
But so just to update everybody, so obviously we're going to be recording our betting show after this. That'll be on our channel tomorrow, and then nothing Sunday, obviously. Then Monday we'll be right back on Bleacher Report right after that game. We'll be on the Bleacher Report channel, and if you guys don't tune into Bleacher Report, we'll have that on our YouTube channel shortly after that. And then Tuesday we'll have our grade show. And then, Tuesday we'll have a grade show, and I believe we're also gonna. That's where we're gonna film, JD, Tuesday with our guest. So yeah, and that we'll have that. We'll have a live stream. So we'll have 2 live streams in one day on Tuesday. So it's gonna be a long day for us, but it's gonna be a fun day for everybody. So we hope everyone enjoys your weekend. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. See you next time, everybody. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out the best clips from Chief Concerns. And if you prefer to listen to the show, subscribe and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts.